My wife regained her fitness and felt she could find someone more suitable, leading her to file for divorce, a decision she soon came to regret. Greetings everyone. Prior to commencing today's video, I would like to request your assistance. We have observed a decline in the channel's traction, and subscribing is one of the most effective ways you can provide your support. It is efficient, complimentary, and it enables us to continue providing you with exceptional content. Your support is invaluable. We should continue to develop this channel collaboratively. Thank you very much. We will now commence the video. Hello, everyone. This is Dave speaking. Prepare yourself, as my life has recently taken an unexpected and chaotic turn. I am 34 years old and currently serve as a warehouse manager based in Columbus. My life may not have been extravagant, but it was consistent. I held a respectable position, resided in a pleasant home, and was married to Carla. We had been together for 5 years and married for 3, and I believed we had a solid relationship. Certainly, we may not have been the quintessential romantic couple portrayed on television, but we successfully navigated our relationship. All bills were settled, we enjoyed our date nights, and the occasional disagreement seemed like a typical aspect of married life, or so I believed. Approximately 6 months prior, Carla made the decision to embark on an extensive fitness journey. It emerged unexpectedly, yet I was fully supportive. She became a member of an elegant gym in the downtown area that truly resembled a spa more than a traditional fitness center. She engaged a personal trainer, Justin, and promptly began discussing meal preparation, macronutrients, and detoxification strategies. I had no objections. I actively supported her. Motivated. It is essential for everyone to have a positive self-image, wouldn't you agree? Additionally, I concluded that it was merely a temporary interest, similar to her brief engagement with knitting or that period when she explored tarot cards. Initially, I contributed my assistance to her efforts. I began to assume a greater share of the household responsibilities, including the dishes, laundry, and grocery shopping, allowing her to dedicate more time to her workouts. I initially believed it was a means to demonstrate my concern for her, but gradually, the situation began to change, and not positively. As Carla shed pounds, her confidence soared. She developed a strong fixation on her reflection, dedicating significant time in front of the mirror, adjusting her gym outfits, or capturing the ideal progress photo for Instagram. Her motivations extended beyond personal gain. She sought to engage an audience. I recall an occasion when I proposed that we view a film together. It was a Friday evening, and I envisioned us unwinding as we used to. She dismissed it with a scoff. "Dave, I cannot afford to waste time. I have objectives to achieve." Mucked you. What objectives? We were not discussing the pursuit of running a marathon or ascending Mount Everest. She was engaged in weightlifting while consuming a green beverage. Nonetheless, I dismissed it without concern. Perhaps I was the one being unreasonable. Then arrived the morning. It commenced like any other. I was in a state of drowsiness, savoring my coffee before departing for work, while Carla was consuming her typical kale spinach smoothie blend. She was attired in her athletic wear, intently scrolling through her phone as if it were crucial to her existence. Unexpectedly, she declares, "I am entitled to greater things in life." I raised my gaze, still feeling drowsy. Xian Chow. What exactly are you referring to? She set her smoothie aside and looked at me with a serious expression. This marriage is hindering my progress, Dave. I am initiating divorce proceedings. I genuinely believed it was a prank. I found myself laughing, believing she was playing a joke on me. However, she did not find it amusing. Her expression was utterly impassive. "I've outgrown this," she stated, as if I were an obsolete piece of furniture she was prepared to discard. "This may be beyond your comprehension." I found myself sitting there, utterly taken by surprise. My wife, the woman with whom I have shared many years of my life, just presented this to me as if it were inconsequential. I attempted to comprehend her words, yet all I experienced was a blend of shock and anger surging within me. "Could you clarify what you mean by having outgrown this? What have you outgrown?" She let out a sigh, as if I were a child posing an abundance of inquiries. "Dave, I have been focusing on personal development, striving to become the most refined version of myself. This current life no longer aligns with my potential. I seek something beyond this house. Qui trin nai. This is you." Her words resonated deeply with me. She was completely straightforward. In her perspective, I contributed to the issue. The life we had constructed together no longer met her expectations. She took her gym bag and exited the door without offering a farewell. I remained seated, gazing at the partially filled glass of green liquid she had abandoned, contemplating the events that had just transpired. The day at work was quite hectic. I completed the tasks at hand, yet my thoughts remained focused on Carla. Was this genuine? Was she truly departing from my life? We had disagreements in the past, certainly, but divorce? It appeared remarkably abrupt, yet meticulously planned. The manner in which she articulated her thoughts, as if she had meticulously prepared this address for an extended period, indicated that her decision was already firmly established. In the coming days, the issues within our marriage became increasingly apparent. She seldom engaged in conversation with me unless it pertained to the division of the house or arranging mediation. She began to extend her evenings, asserting that she was either at the gym or socializing with friends. Her phone was constantly in her grasp, and her Instagram was filled with selfies and captions such as "New Chapter," "Who Dis," and "Living My Best Life." Each post served as a stark reminder, highlighting that she had already progressed mentally, despite the absence of signed documents. One evening, as I was browsing my social media, I observed that she had removed all the pictures of us. Photos from the wedding disappeared. By Dang Ky Neem, removed. It felt as though I had been completely erased from her existence. In the meantime, her latest posts were garnering significant engagement, with numerous likes and comments from supporters praising her efforts. "Your radiance is remarkable. Truly inspiring." It caused me great discomfort. None of these individuals were aware of the true nature of Carla or the challenges she was causing me. On another evening, I caught a glimpse of her conversation on the phone as I prepared for my workday. She was in the kitchen, conversing with someone in that overly sweet tone she adopted when she had a request. "Indeed, I feel an incredible sense of liberation now," she remarked. "I am finally engaging in activities that bring me joy." She took a moment, then let out a soft laugh. "He fails to understand. He remains anchored in previous times." That was the moment I realized everything. Carla was not merely departing, she was transforming her identity, and I was the weight she was shedding. However, it is important to note, I am not someone who easily submits or accepts things without question. She believed she could easily overpower me and take everything, but she was in for a surprising realization. This was merely the start, and if Carla sought a challenge, she would certainly receive it. However, the situation is about to deteriorate further. One afternoon, I am enjoying lunch at a cafe located near my workplace. I was focused on my own activities, browsing my phone, when I happened to catch a conversation between two gentlemen at the adjacent table. They are discussing a fitness influencer they discovered online. I initially overlooked the situation until one of them mentioned her name. Carla. My stomach sank. They were engaged in conversation, discussing her promotion of exclusive content. Initially, I was skeptical. I couldn't believe it was Carla. However, one of them displayed his Instagram on his phone. It was her, my Carla. They discussed how she had begun promoting an OnlyFans account, including links in her bio for the authentic workouts. I felt a surge of intense anger. This was more than a mere fitness trend. She was leveraging her newfound freedom to strategically attract attention for financial gain. Upon arriving home, I addressed the situation with her directly. She was seated on the couch, casually scrolling through her phone as if nothing had occurred. "Carla," I stated, making an effort to maintain my composure. "What is this OnlyFans platform that I keep hearing about?" She glanced upward, entirely composed. "This is my body, Dave. My decision. This matter no longer concerns you." I was astonished by her audacity. "This is not within my purview. We remain married. You are promoting yourself online while I am working to maintain stability in our lives." She expressed her frustration, as if I were an antiquated relic who simply failed to understand the situation. "I am not promoting myself. It involves the creation of content. Nu nuoi tuk hien judu. Furthermore, you are no longer responsible for my expenses." That's when I realized. Carla sought more than just a divorce. She aspired to completely transform her life. One where she took center stage, the primary focus, while I remained merely a background figure she had overlooked. She displayed confidence and composure. She exuded a sense of pride, as if she had discovered her genuine purpose as an online sensation. In the coming weeks, her behavior intensified. She began to style herself as if preparing for a reality show audition. Form-fitting dresses, elevated heels, makeup applied with precision. Each time she stepped outside, she appeared as though she was preparing for a glamorous event, rather than a simple trip to the grocery store. What about the captions? They deteriorated. Embracing my authenticity. It's time to move forward without hesitation. And the one that compelled me to consider discarding my phone. She is no longer a wife. She is an unstoppable presence. The boldness. While Carla engaged in her public persona, I was left managing the consequences. Legal professionals, documentation, and related matters. However, Carla was not as invulnerable as she believed. My lawyer, Steve, has been conducting thorough research. It appears that she has been involved with someone primarily interested in her financial resources. However, with a gym membership, it's likely you can infer who I'm referring to. We appreciate your attention and encourage you to remain engaged. Situations are poised to become complicated. I will provide you with an update as soon as possible. He has made one update. Hello again, Reddit. It's Dave, your soon-to-be divorced individual with a front-row seat to my ex's dramatic transformation saga. If you've been following along, you are aware that my wife Carla chose to leave this life behind, abandoning me unexpectedly, and has been showcasing herself around town as if she were a fitness celebrity. However, let's discuss the individual who has been driving this entire situation. Justin. Indeed, her personal trainer. Truly unique, isn't it? The moment I heard his name, I realized this was far from a mere trainer-client relationship. Justin embodied the quintessential persona often found on reality dating shows. Well-defined, bronzed, and lacking in substance. He exuded charisma, strength, and a confident smile. As if he stepped out of a poorly crafted romantic comedy. Carla was quite direct about their connection as well. One day, she entered the house after her workout, radiating confidence. Justin claims I am at my peak strength, she asserted confidently, without even glancing in my direction. Indeed, Carla, I'm confident that Justin has mentioned he has never trained anyone quite like you before, as that aligns with his usual narrative. A few weeks later, she ceased to disguise it as merely workouts. She began to mention his name in informal discussions. Justin is accompanying me to a newly opened vegan restaurant. Justin mentioned that this protein powder can significantly transform your life. In the meantime, I find myself pondering, do I appear to be concerned? However, Carla was not merely referencing names. She was showcasing him as if he were her trophy. News circulated rapidly. Acquaintances began reaching out to inform me about Carla and Justin's various appearances around the city. They were holding hands, laughing, and presenting themselves like a perfectly curated couple from social media. Carla made no effort to conceal it. One evening, she returned home with confidence and stated, "Just so you are aware, Justin and I are now in a relationship. I believe it is time for you to acknowledge that." Indeed, I accepted it without hesitation. I acknowledged that my wife had become a complete embodiment of entitlement. She had already reached a decision to end our relationship in her mind. So what significance did it hold for her if she included a public affair in her portfolio? The more I discovered about Justin, the more my frustration intensified. He was far from an ordinary individual. This individual possessed a notable background. My lawyer Steve, who truly deserves recognition for his efforts, conducted thorough research and discovered that Justin had engaged in this behavior previously. Hylon Tuksu. He exhibited a consistent pattern. Identify a married woman, offer her sincere compliments and validation, and support her in considering her options regarding her marriage. Then, once the situation stabilized and the funds ceased to circulate, he would disappear like Houdini. Justin was an expert at disrupting relationships. It was not love. It was a demanding effort. He elevated these women, instilled a sense of invincibility in them, and capitalized on their momentum until it no longer served his interests. What about Carla? She was an ideal target. She sought attention and validation with an intensity akin to a fish's need for water. Justin had her completely under his influence, and she remained oblivious to it. The most frustrating aspect was his self-satisfied demeanor regarding the situation. I received information from shared contacts that Justin has begun discussing their significant plans. He reportedly mentioned that once the divorce is finalized, Carla and I will establish a formidable empire. Empire? You're a trainer, not a technology entrepreneur. However, it's important to aspire to great heights. Justin was not solely relying on Carla's financial resources. He was relying on my financial support. Carla was requesting a significant portion of my savings, spousal support, and was even attempting to claim the house. She believed she could enter the courtroom, portray herself as the victim, and effortlessly secure a favorable outcome for her and Justin's future. Unbeknownst to her, my attorney had all the necessary documentation, and I was not going to concede easily. Allow me to illustrate the dynamic between Carla and Justin as a couple. Picture a man exclusively dressed in tank tops, beside a woman who suddenly believes she embodies the essence of a Kardashian. They showcase themselves extensively on social media, standing in front of luxury cars that weren't theirs, and tagging their locations at high-end restaurants. I assume that Carla was covering the expenses. It seemed as though they were attempting to convey a message, drawing attention to their success. However, to anyone with a modicum of insight, it was evident that they were overcompensating. Their relationship had its imperfections, however. Justin's exuberant personality began to conflict with Carla's increasingly demanding nature. One evening, I overheard her in the kitchen, engaged in a heated conversation with someone on the phone. "Your past relationships do not concern me, Justin. You are here with me now, and I am entitled to more than your past issues." I didn't catch the rest, but it was sufficient to indicate that their little fantasy wasn't as flawless as they wished everyone to perceive. Despite my frustration, there was a peculiar sense of satisfaction in observing Carla fully commit to Justin. She had invested all her hopes in this individual, believing he was her pathway to an improved future, and it was merely a question of time before everything unraveled. My attorney and I were ensuring that everything was in order. Following the mediation, Carla experienced a decline in her confidence. She entered that room with confidence, but exited looking completely overwhelmed. It was stunning. Justin, her steadfast supporter, made no attempt to console her. He remained quietly behind her, engrossed in his phone. That was my initial indication that their seemingly strong empire was not as stable as Carla wished to portray. However, let's take a step back for a moment. Mediation represented more than just a challenge for Carla. The situation was unfortunate. She believed she would enter, shed a few tears, and leave with the house, a significant portion of my savings, and spousal support. Carla's lawyer portrayed her as the overlooked spouse who devoted herself entirely to my unremarkable aspirations. Are you familiar with average aspirations? I have dedicated many years to my role at this warehouse job. Steve, my attorney, was prepared. He provided spreadsheets, screenshots, and even credit card statements to support my case. Carla had been depleting our joint account for months prior to her filing for divorce. We are discussing indulgent spa experiences, high-end fashion, and extravagant dinners, while I was left with leftovers, contemplating where things took a turn. Steve ensured that the court was fully aware of every dollar she squandered. Then emerged Justin's skeletons, his previous entanglements, his tendency to charm married women, and his consistent retreat when financial expectations were not met. The final touch. Steve discovered messages from a former partner of Justin's, advising Carla to exercise caution. Naturally, Carla chose not to heed the advice. She believed she stood apart. Justin's smirk had vanished as well. In fact, he appeared quite uneasy. He likely became aware that his minor deception was coming apart in real time. Carla attempted to advocate for him, asserting that Justin has changed, yet the evidence was overwhelmingly unfavorable. The judge remained unconvinced by their performance. By the end of the session, it became evident that Carla would not be leaving with the fortune she had anticipated. Justin. He appeared to be formulating his departure plan. Following the mediation, Carla began to exhibit unusual behavior. She no longer exhibited that sense of superiority. She continued to share her motivational messages on Instagram, but the captions began to seem increasingly desperate. Rather than fully embracing life, I found myself reflecting on the notion that growth may present challenges, yet it ultimately proves to be rewarding. Of course, Carla. Continue to affirm that to yourself. Justin, in contrast, was revealing his authentic self. He remained in the vicinity, yet his presence was not as prominent as Carla suggested. He began to withdraw from their public engagements. Eliminate the need for excessive displays of affection at upscale dining establishments or curated fitness couple photos. It became known that he was already engaging in flirtatious behavior with another client, a younger woman, who seemingly arrived without the complexities associated with Carla. Standard practice. One evening, Carla returned home later than usual. At that time, I was residing in the house with her, as I was not in a position to legally remove her. She entered, appearing completely exhausted. I remained silent. I remained seated on the couch, observing her closely. She placed her designer bag on the counter with a sigh, as if inviting me to inquire about her troubles. However, I was not engaged in that game. I have just entered my room. The following morning, Carla made an effort to present herself as if everything was in order. She moved through the kitchen, preparing one of her kale smoothies with precision. However, her typical air of self-satisfaction had vanished. Out of the blue, she remarked that Justin has been occupied with his clients. I chose not to respond. I understood she was hoping I would take the bait and inquire about him. However, I refused to provide her with the satisfaction. 1 week later, the true drama unfolded. I received a call from Steve. It appears that Carla submitted some last-minute documentation in an attempt to assert additional claims on assets. She sought restitution for the emotional strain I had inflicted upon her throughout our marriage. Indeed, you have understood correctly. Carla believed she could secure additional funds by attributing her midlife crisis to me. I was taken aback by the boldness. Steve, with his remarkable foresight, had already made arrangements for this situation. He initiated a countersuit, demonstrating how Carla had depleted our accounts and skillfully manipulated the emotional aspects of the situation to benefit herself. He meticulously included her Instagram posts as part of the evidence. The captions were exceptional, demonstrating that she was not merely a stressed-out victim, but rather a self-absorbed diva enjoying her life at my expense. During this period, Justin officially became untraceable. He ceased attending their gym sessions, stopped responding to her calls, and even restricted her access on Instagram. Indeed, access is restricted. Carla was struggling to maintain her composure. I could hear her moving about the house, repeatedly calling his name. Justin, please return my call at your earliest convenience. It is necessary for us to have a discussion. She conveyed a sense of urgency. It was truly gratifying. Ultimately, one of her friends revealed the information. Justin has transitioned to a different client. A person who is younger, more vibrant, and, above all, free from the complications of a tumultuous divorce. Carla was deeply affected. She attempted to maintain composure, sharing enigmatic quotes such as, "Sometimes individuals are not as they appear, and one cannot establish an empire with someone who is not serious." However, it was clear to all what had transpired. Her ideal partner had abandoned her the moment challenges arose. This marked the beginning of Carla's entitlement beginning to deteriorate. She ceased her visits to the gym. Her previously elegant outfits were substituted with casual sweats and untidy buns. It was quite surprising that she even paused her Instagram activity for a period of time. It seemed as though her whole sense of self was intricately linked to Justin and the idealized vision of their future together. Without his presence, she found herself at a loss for direction. One evening, she attempted to engage in conversation with me. "Dave," she stated, positioned in the doorway of the living room. "It is essential for us to reassess all aspects thoroughly. This divorce has been challenging for both parties involved." I observed her intently, anticipating the moment of revelation. "What is your point, Carla?" She let out a deep sigh, as if she were the one suffering in this situation. "I believe we may have proceeded too quickly with this matter. We certainly had some memorable moments, didn't we? I nearly found it amusing. Carla, you have initiated the divorce proceedings. Do you recall when you mentioned that I was hindering your progress? Now that Justin has departed, are you reconsidering your stance?" Incredible. She attempted to evoke sympathy, discussing her feelings of loneliness and the sacrifices she made for the marriage. However, I remained unconvinced. Carla, I interjected, interrupting her. You have taken responsibility for your actions. Now take responsibility for it. Carla's carefully constructed fantasy world was unraveling, and I remained completely uninvolved. Karma was handling all the responsibilities. That concludes our discussion for the time being, Reddit. I will provide you with an update following the final court decision, and believe me, it will be something you won't want to overlook. Cap not high. Greetings, Reddit. This is Dave returning once more. Thank you for your continued support. Prepare yourself for the culmination of this entire situation. As you may know, Carla, my former spouse, believed she could enter the courtroom, seize all assets, and embark on a new chapter with Justin, her personal trainer. However, the consequences have arrived, and we are now approaching the final phase. Allow me to recount the events of the courtroom drama and the reasons why Carla may regret her presence in that setting. The day of the court proceedings has finally arrived. Carla entered, yet it was not the familiar confident stride I had come to expect. No designer blazer, no smug grin, just her and her lawyer, exuding an air of uncertainty akin to two students entering detention. She likely realized that the situation was not going to unfold in her favor. The atmosphere was unique, and I genuinely appreciated every moment of it. On the opposite side, I found myself with Steve, my legal counsel. He arrived well prepared, with a binder so substantial it could have served as a doorstop. I felt completely at ease. At this juncture, I found myself with no stakes to risk. Carla had delivered all her strikes, yet I remained unyielding. Today focused on ensuring I thrived rather than merely enduring the experience. I have achieved victory. The attorney commenced by outlining the emotional compensation claim previously mentioned, depicting Carla as a devoted spouse who had endured significant emotional strain due to my insufficient support for her personal development. It seems that my decision not to endorse her fitness journey, which is essentially her involvement with Justin, has been perceived as a lack of support. Steve, my attorney, permitted her counsel to speak at length, enabling them to undermine their own position. Next, it was our opportunity. Steve commenced by methodically deconstructing their argument. He presented proof that I had not only supported Carla, but had also exceeded expectations throughout her fitness journey. He provided evidence that I had assumed responsibility for household tasks, modified my work schedule, and actively supported her in chasing her aspirations. He read aloud the text messages in which I proposed preparing nutritious meals for her, encouraged her gym activities, and even recommended that we participate in couples fitness classes to enhance our relationship. Then, Steve made a significant announcement. Carla's emotional compensation claim was not without merit. It was a clear effort to obscure her own emotional shortcomings. He provided emails and texts in which Carla candidly mocked me to her friends, labeling me as uninteresting and a burden. He even possessed screenshots of her boasting about Justin and referring to me as her backup plan. However, the definitive turning point occurred when Steve discussed the financial implications of Carla's claim. He provided our bank statements, illustrating how Carla had redirected thousands of dollars from our joint account to support her lavish lifestyle. Carla's attorney attempted to resist, yet Steve was far from finished. He presented the definitive piece of evidence, a journal entry from Carla that had been subpoenaed by Steve. In it, Carla detailed her strategic plan to exit the marriage, maximize her gains, and utilize the settlement funds to support her new life with Justin. The expression on the judge's face upon reading that? Utter astonishment. The courtroom was utterly silent as the judge meticulously reviewed the paperwork, his serious demeanor intensifying with every page he turned. Carla sat beside her attorney, her demeanor tense, as her perfectly manicured nails rhythmically tapped against the table. Her confidence, once displayed so assertively during mediation, had dissipated completely. Opposite her, I was seated with Steve, my attorney, experiencing a blend of eagerness and contentment. This was the moment. The instant all that Carla had woven into her story would begin to come apart. The judge commenced by discussing Carla's claim for emotional compensation. "Mrs. Patterson," he stated, his voice unwavering yet assertive, "your request for emotional compensation does not provide sufficient evidence." He took a moment, allowing the words to resonate before proceeding. Although emotional distress may be a legitimate factor in certain situations, this court mandates unequivocal and substantiated evidence. Your assertions rely on personal feelings rather than objective evidence. He focused on Steve's counter-arguments. He detailed the text messages, bank statements, and Instagram captions that illustrated a significantly contrasting narrative from what Carla and her lawyer had attempted to convey. "Mr. Patterson," the judge remarked, turning to me for the first time, "you have shown a clear and consistent pattern of support for your wife throughout the marriage. The evidence presented does not suggest any signs of emotional neglect. In reality, it indicates the contrary. You exceeded expectations in addressing her needs and aspirations." Carla's attorney attempted to intervene, grappling with an objection regarding the evidence being presented out of context. The judge quieted him with a raised hand. "The situation is well understood, counselor. Let's proceed." Subsequently, the judge addressed the financial dimensions of the case. He systematically examined the evidence that Steve had provided. "Mrs. Patterson," the judge stated, his tone becoming more severe,